So to kind of start at the beginning, I decided to do a degree in drama and arts management because it was something I was interested in. I didn't really have any other ideas, if I'm honest. I just kind of went for it. I did really enjoy my degree, but I soon realised that the practical side of performance was not really my thing at all. So I focused on arts management, and whilst at university I got involved in setting up a theatre company and a small theatre above a pub in Leicester. So whilst I was doing that, I discovered that the role I had kind of taken on was apparently called a theatre producer. So that's just what I decided I wanted to do. Being a theatre producer involves a lot of organisation, a lot of admin, creating contracts and budgets, but it's also a lot of networking, creative thinking, and kind of putting people together to make things. So I got a job as an apprentice producer at a big theatre in Leicester. And then over 5 years, I kind of worked my way up to the role of producer at that theatre. So during this time, I worked on a variety of different shows, from large-scale musicals with some celebs, well, kind of celebs, to big amateur productions, drama, dance, and children's shows. So I was in charge of organising and planning all the auditions. So I often went down to London for that, because that's kind of where they were all at and where all the actors apparently were. Speaking to agents, negotiating contracts, sourcing designers, costume makers, and most importantly for me, looking after the budget. So, like as I said before, a producer's job is mainly to get the right people in the right place at the right time, and then also look after the money. But the role can vary quite widely depending on the theatre and the organisation you're working in, and producers can be quite creatively involved with productions too. Some of my most memorable moments include auditioning dogs for Oliver, Annie and Legally Blonde. We used people's pets, so just people in the community and audience members' pets, so it was total chaos, and they all came at the same time. And yeah, it was a bit mad. And then scheduling for the actual shows, getting them on the stage and not doing anything they shouldn't be doing was also a little bit mad at times. So I also planned open auditions. So when we did community shows, so often over kind of 500 people would come and audition. So that was a real feat of organisation, which I kind of enjoyed. And then I also got to go to Edinburgh Festival every year, which was really fun. Got to see loads of new shows, some slightly mad, some totally rubbish, and some of the best things I've also ever seen. And Edinburgh is obviously a great city, so that was really fun. One of the things I'm probably most proud of is that I helped to organise one of the first dementia-friendly performances in the UK. So West Yorkshire Playhouse in Leeds did the first one, and we kind of used that as a model. And then we did the second one, which was amazing and a really good thing to be part of, and something I'm quite proud of. So by the end of those 5 years, I wasn't really enjoying my job as much as I had initially. The working environment was quite intense, and I felt that too much was expected of me. So I did think about changing career at this point, as I wasn't sure theatre was for me anymore, but I decided to give another theatre a go to see if maybe a changed environment would make the difference I needed. I was successful in getting a job as a producer at a theatre in Newcastle. So it was a big change and a big upheaval, but I was kind of after a fresh start, and we had some friends already in the city, so that made it all a little bit easier. So me and my partner moved to Newcastle from Leicester. My family are from Yorkshire originally, so it did feel a little bit like coming home. And my northern accent came back, which I really enjoyed. So I began my new job here in Newcastle, and I worked for 2 years there before I decided that another change was on the cards. And I'd come to the point where I realised it wasn't the specific theatre that made the difference, but it was the industry as a whole and the role that I was doing. As you can probably imagine, my work-life balance wasn't great. I spent a lot of time at the theatre, and there was kind of evenings and weekend work, and I just didn't really feel like there were many opportunities or much progression. I also, one of the big things about it was that I didn't feel like the role fit my personality very well, as I was kind of getting into my late 20s, and I think that's something that took quite a long time to realise and was also quite difficult to accept. So I'm quite a confident person, but I found myself getting quite anxious about certain aspects of the job. And I tried to brush it off and kind of basically forced myself into doing it, into doing things that I knew I didn't feel comfortable doing. And it came to a point where I just thought, this is not worth it anymore. So I've accepted that I like routine and that I can't just wing it, and that I do have to be prepared. So that was quite a big deal for me to kind of go, no, this I can't squeeze myself into this anymore. It's not really for me. So I'd always enjoyed the financial aspects of being a producer, and I often had thought about maybe going into accounting. I'm quite a proactive person, and once I make a decision, I tend to just jump in feet first. So I made the decision that I was going to try it, and then I just kind of made it happen. I think the overriding emotion at that time was excitement and kind of relief, because I knew that I knew that I was doing the right thing. And then it was nervousness and stress about whether going back to an entry-level job was a good idea, and I knew I'd have to take a pay cut, and that was also kind of worrying. I'd only been in Newcastle 2 years, I didn't know loads of people, so yeah, there was also a little bit of anxiety around that as well. So I spoke to someone that worked in the finance department at the theatre that I worked in and asked for their advice. They suggested I consider doing a qualification with AAT, which is the Association of Accounting Technicians. So I researched and decided to start at the very beginning with level 2. So I paid for this myself, and I did the training online. I just paid for it monthly, so it worked out quite affordable. I decided to start studying in the following January, but ended up seeing a really good offer for online learning in September, so I just kind of went for it and threw myself into it. I was sent workbooks to go through and had online videos to watch alongside it. Because I did the cheapest kind of basic version, I didn't get any live lessons or real people teaching me. I did have a dedicated tutor who marked my mock exams and who I could ask questions of. So I did this alongside my job at the theatre at the time, it was difficult to fit it around my full-time job, but it felt really good to kind of get on with it and to be working towards my goal. I've always been quite an academic person, so for me getting stuck back into that was really enjoyable. I also loved the black and white nature of accountancy. You know if you're getting it right. Working my way through exams also felt like a real achievement. I'm a person that thrives when they get to something to work towards and a list that can be ticked off. So whilst I was studying level 2, I started applying for jobs. One of the things I made sure of when I was applying was that the employer would be willing to pay for the rest of my studies. It was important to me to continue studying, and lots of employers are happy to do this. So I had an interview at the City Council and at Oxfam, which I didn't get, but then I was successful in getting a role in accounts payable at Balfour Beatty, which is a large construction firm. Preparing for all these interviews, I made sure I researched the organisation well, and I had a few key points about what I liked about them. I also thought of a variety of examples for different scenarios, and I remembered to use the STAR method, which is situation, task, action, and result. Another thing I found useful when talking through my CV was to start with the present, go back to the past, and then focus on the future. I always took notes with me into an interview. As I said before, I cannot wing it. I have to be prepared. So in fact, I sellotaped pages of a notebook onto the end of existing ones, so it kind of concertinaed out, and I could see everything at once. So I'd get in there, spread it all out, and they'd know I was ready. My interview at the City Council did go really well, and I nearly got it, but they said I wasn't clear enough about my ambitions for the future. And as it was an apprenticeship, that was something that was really important to them. My interview with Oxfam went less well. I think I answered the questions okay, but there was an Excel task, and I just hadn't done enough of my studies to even vaguely understand it. I just totally guessed, and I kind of knew that it wasn't probably going to work out. They also wanted someone that would be supervising all of their volunteers, and I think in hindsight that's not something I probably would have wanted, so it did work out for the best in the end. My interview with Balfour Beatty came a bit out of the blue. I'd gotten to the point where I'd applied for so many jobs, I couldn't really remember what I'd applied for. They rang me and they wanted to see me in a few days at 8:30 in the morning, which I thought was really odd, but it turns out their working hours are just quite early. They said I'd applied for another role, but that this interview was for accounts payable, and I'll be honest, I didn't really understand what that involved, but I just went along for it anyway. I went to the office and had an interview with 2 managers. They asked me questions that aligned with the values of Balfour Beatty and asked me to give examples of when I'd shown those values. I was also asked a few technical questions. I think one was, what's a pivot table? And then the other one was about invoice matching, which I was completely honest about and just said, I'm going to have a guess. I don't know the answer, but here's what I think it might be. They rang me an hour later and offered me the job. So I put my notice in at the theatre and started at Balfour Beatty in April 2019. From the feedback I received, my attitude and enthusiasm, along with the fact that I'd already started studying independently, was pretty much what got me the job at Balfour Beatty. So my first day came around and I was nervous. My manager showed me around, and after that I didn't really have a lot to do. I felt like a bit of a spare part for the first few weeks, and I tried my best to get along with others in the team, but I felt like the odd one out, and it was all a bit of a shock. I'm the kind of person that wants everything to be perfect instantly, and I think I just let things happen. I needed to just let things happen a bit more naturally. So I kept being sociable and chatty, and after a while I did start to make some friends and feel a bit more comfortable. I think one of the reasons I found this particularly hard was because of how huge the company is. So I'm used to working somewhere where I'd end up knowing pretty much everyone. And at Balfour Beatty, that's literally impossible. They're always basically processing invoices, which was quite varied because of the size and the scale of the company. I found it quite easy to pick up the tasks I had to do, and I did find that I got praise and recognition for the work I was putting in. I noticed that people moved around internally quite frequently, so I researched the departments and worked out which one could lead me on a path to becoming a management accountant.